Okay, we're going to start doing this side work, and I've got a picture of a bear. And what we're going to try to build now, we're going to get this side ripples and stuff in the mouth, a little bit of detail right in here, and then get it ready to go paint, and then we'll move on to the nose and things. Where we were talking yesterday also about putting the nose wrinkles in, you don't have to actually use the wrinkles on this mannequin. I mean, you can do as much wrinklage as you want, and you'll be able to see in this reference photo where they have this muscle right up over the top of the canines. You can put that in. You know, you can get kind of crazy. The only thing is, if on some of the mannequins, if they don't have this nose elevated enough and you're going to put a lot of snarl in them, you have to remember to raise that nose a little bit, which is going to bring your whole lip line up. So put a little bit of clay in here, build this a little higher, and just sort of raise that up a little bit. Or you can get extreme and just cut the nose off and raise it if you're going to roll it back, because when they lift this whole piece moves. When they lift this up with these muscles, it actually pulls this back a little bit, you know, and that pushes them teeth out. So, you know, you can get as extensive as you want off of reference material. So just find your pictures ahead of time and then go off of those. Okay, so we're going to go right down the side of this thing, and we're going to take a little roll of this one. In fact, we might not even need to do that because this thing had good sidewalls on the side of the mouth. What I'm going to do is just sort of carry some of this down and over the edge. We'll get a little bit of texture done on the outside of this lip, and then we'll do the other side. We'll let you see how the one side's done, and or even both sides, and then we can move on from there. Okay, so we got the inside of the mouth pretty much taken care of. What I'm doing is I'm putting a little bit of mouth detail here in the sides of the mouth, that little bit of little slight creases. They're going to go in pretty deep, and then we'll lay them down with the water and a brush. You can spray it right on the brush or in the mouth, either one. Just run back and forth until you sort of lay them down a little bit flatter. You can move them around however you want, and then come in and go down towards the hair, or vice versa, or go up the other way. And then that puts a little bit more grooves in that soft material and helps you get a little more detail out of it. And this will dry up just fine. So we got this done. What we're going to do now, in fact, this side here is already dry. You can see some of the detail on the side of the mouth. So we'll go ahead and move on to the lip, or the nose, and get that done, and get that sculpted, and then we'll do the eyes, and we'll be ready to paint this thing. And this stuff, you don't have to wait very long for this stuff to dry so you can paint it. So we can paint this here after about 15 minutes after you do it, as long as it's dry. So we're going to throw a little sculpting material up in here. Basically what you're doing is you're just filling the nostril with sculpting material, and then you're going to come back and shape the inside however you want it. We use the bear nose for reference, you know, and then that way you can see how to do the septum on the inside. You know, you can get as carried away as you want. You can put the depth and all the stuff in it, or you can just use it like most people, just put a sort of a nose in, and it's got a little bit of a septum going back, and most guys on the bear rugs, they're happy with that. So, excuse me, put a little depth in there so you can get your color transitions and things. But if you put that septum in like we did way back in there, it gives a little bit more character down in the nose, and a little depth, a little water down in there. If you used an artificial nose, now you wouldn't even have to be doing this part. What you'd be doing is you'd be sculpting around the outside of the artificial nose, right along the seam where the skin is. You could come in there with a little bit of magic sculpt, and then go over the top of it with the Elmer's wood finisher putty, and go over the top, and then that would put that nice unshiny finish on it that would hold it pretty good. But we're going to try to use these real noses, unless I get one that's got a bullet hole or something in them that's irreplaceable, or a tannery cuts one up. I'm just putting the brush in there and just smoothing things around. Get some depth out of it. Now the unfortunate part is you can't really get the depth that some of these noses have in them, because the jaw set is stuck up so high towards the nose. So when you try to get your depth that you drop back off in there, you can't do that because the plastic's in there. So if you really want to put that depth in, you got to cut the front of the jaw set off to be able to set that nose down in there. So we've got one side pretty much fair done. I'm going to put a little piece of this nose wing back in here. And like I say, you can get as carried away with this as you want. Just as long as you've got a septum going back that shows some depth, your clients will be happy with it. And this kind of stuff, you can build this up after you do your septum, and then that way you can still see back past it, but you can't see the back wall back in the back. There, that's pretty good for, you know, just a rug shell head. Now, if you ended up cutting this nostril wing off of here, all you got to do is just go ahead and continue out with this. But if you do, you've got to make sure that you get your grain back, your grainy look of your leather for your nostrils and your nose pads, so you can just hit it with the edge of your brush if you needed to. But this one had the wings pretty much cleaned out. So get back in here. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing over here. We're just going to fill this up and go ahead and get this nostril looking right. All right, we got the nose pretty much done. There's a little bit of water coming out here. That's what the white stuff is, but we're going to, I'll blow that dry a little bit here in a minute.
Okay, we've cut our strips and we've pinked everything, sewn them together, and now we're going to sew them onto the bear. Some people sew them flat underneath, but I like to roll mine over a little bit and sew them from the top side, because then when I flip it back over, I have a nice clean finished edge and I don't have a seam showing through the hair. So I just shove all the hair over as far as I can. I lay the edge of my felt to the edge of my hide, and I keep everything just as close as I can to that edge, and we go. And I just, every few inches, you got to stop and pull all the hair back over out of your way again. The closer you get to the head, the more twisted up you get over here. So you just kind of keep working your leg flat to make sure nothing buckles up underneath you, and keep working this head in towards you, keeping your edges lined up all the time. And your little strings on where they've made the cuts in the flanks, there it is, and they've sewn this flank together. I always keep that on the outside so that it lays under and there's no way it escapes and shows on the finished edge. Okay, now I'm going to go as close to this head shell as I can. And you got to be careful of your ears at this point, because if you're not paying attention, you can smack those and break them loose.